Hey guys and gals, welcome back to the channel where today we're going to show you how to vacuum bleed your clutch system. So for this job, you're going to need a vacuum bleeder. These kits usually come with a variety of hoses and tips. So what you're going to want to do is assemble this. So you connect the hose here. The main thing with this, you definitely want to make sure there's a rubber O-ring in there. You want to make sure that's well seated and in there good, otherwise you won't have any vacuum. You can go ahead and test this before you get set up. You can cover the tip, go ahead, pump it up, and you can see there, we've got vacuum. In addition to your vacuum bleeder, you're going to want some nice fresh brake fluid, a catch can, and probably some brake clean. So there's several different ways you can bleed the clutch. Today we're going to show you the top-down method using this tip right here. So in your vac bleeder kit, you should have a variety of different tips and attachments. So you just want this pointy one, and we're going to insert that into the reservoir. One thing with a vacuum bleeder, if this ends up filling up and fluid ends up going through this hose and up into your vac bleeder, it will damage the seals and it won't work anymore. So try to avoid that. What I like to do is go ahead and just suspend it pretty up high. I also like to have some paper towels handy just to avoid getting brake fluid everywhere. And you'll probably want some brake cleaner nearby just to make sure you keep things tidy because brake fluid gets quite corrosive if you let it set. Another nice thing to have is a little funnel just to help, again, with avoiding spillages. So we'll start by removing the reservoir cap. So you can see there, kind of want to make sure that it doesn't drip everywhere. And then what we're going to do, so we're going to take this, and we're not just going to put it in here like that. You're going to want to find the hole at the bottom, which is about in the middle of the reservoir. You'll feel it when it goes in. Otherwise, you'll suck out all your brake fluid and completely undo any bleeding which you might have done. So with this, we got that set up. So we're going to take our bleeder here and start applying pressure. And you can see here, fluid's traveling up the line, and here come the bubbles. You can back off the pressure a little bit to avoid all the brake fluid going into the reservoir because you're really just trying to get out the bubbles. And then once you've got vacuum on it, you can let it sit. And there you can see all of your bubbles coming out. And so with this, you want to vac bleed it until there are no more bubbles and you just have clear fluid in the line. Depending on what car you have, it might be easier or harder to bleed. This particular vehicle is particularly hard to bleed with the T56. And while you're doing this, you just want to keep an eye on the pressure, and you can just let that sit until all the bubbles are gone. So we've let this sit for a few minutes. You can see there's no more bubbles coming up in the line at the moment. But one thing you can do is go ahead and pump up the clutch a bit and see if it releases any more air. So you're giving that clutch a few pumps, you can see more bubbles starting to come up. Back off the pressure just a little bit just to keep that fluid down a bit. If you do let off a little bit of pressure, make sure that you don't let it all out, otherwise you'll lose your vacuum. So the bubbles have come up, so the line is solid again. We'll go ahead and give the clutch a few more pumps. And we've got another bubble coming up, so we'll just let that continue to sit, making sure we still have vacuum on there. So that's looking pretty good. We'll go ahead and cycle the clutch again. And we've got another bubble that just came up. So when I cycle the clutch, I usually like to do about 10 to 20 pumps in quick succession. And you do want to keep an eye on your reservoir to make sure it doesn't go dry. Otherwise, you'll undo all the work you've just done. You can see here, just with the vacuum alone, it will eventually get the trapped air and bring it up. It's another bubble. So we'll just continue to let that sit with a vacuum on it. All right, so you can see we haven't had any bubbles in the line for a while. And the level here is getting pretty high. So what we want to do is make sure we've got enough fluid in the reservoir. And what I like to do is pull this out real quickly with vacuum. All right, and then we'll just let that drain. And then what you can do is repeat the process again. So go ahead with no vacuum on, so make sure there's no vacuum. We'll go ahead and place the tip inside again. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and start to add vacuum again. If you can see the levels creeping up from about here, and there's no bubbles yet, so that's a good sign. So jump back in and give the clutch a few more pumps. And you can see there we've got a few more bubbles coming up, so we'll just let that sit once again with vacuum. It is creeping up a bit, so I'll just take off just a little bit, just to keep that level from going straight up. So you can see we don't have any more bubbles coming up yet, which is a good sign. But we'll just go ahead and continue to let that sit with a vacuum on it, just to make sure that we don't have any bubbles at all. All right, so we've let this sit for a while. We've given it a lot of good pumps. I still don't see any bubbles coming up, so that's a really good sign. All right, so we've left it on here for a long time. You can see it's sucked up all the way up to here. I'm gonna go ahead, we got a little pressure we can relieve. All right, I'm gonna go ahead, there's only a little bit pressure left in here, but pull that out. Go ahead and let that drain down in there. Then we're going to check our level. All right, so you can see here, we're right about where we need to be as far as levels. If you're not, just go ahead and top it off. And then we'll go ahead and put our cap back on. And then just make sure if you spilled any, even if you don't think you spilled any, go ahead and make sure you get any trace of brake fluid off with some brake clean. All right, guys and gals, if you found this video helpful, please hit like and subscribe, and feel free to share and comment below. We'll catch you for the next one. See ya.